Hey guys, what's going on? It's Cody here with Exiled Power, and today is our very first episode of the Exiled Roundtable. We don't have a snappy title for it yet, but we'll get there. We are talking about everything Legion. We're talking about Legion hype from Demon Hunters to artifact weapons to class changes, and we're going to look at everything from a Mythic Raider perspective. If you guys don't know anything about us, we are a 2-day raiding guild on Arthas, the best 2-day raiding guild on Arthas. We raid 6 hours a week. We work really hard to push ourselves and to be that best guild on the server. So today, I'm going to kick it off to the first member of Exiled Power, Steve.
Hey guys, my name is Steve, also known as Kelso. I'm the resident enhancement shaman in Exiled Power. I've been playing an enhancement shaman since Hellfire Citadel, so fairly new, but enjoying it so far. I'm going to pass it over to Sean, aka Republic, and he's our full paladin.
Yeah, I do lots of things for the guild, so I think for the most part I've been fulfilling the role of the healing officer for most of the guild's formation in BRF. I was one of the first people. I'm responsible for the name Exiled Power, be it a good thing or a bad thing, all that good stuff. So I have no idea what I'm playing in Legion yet. Holy Paladins very disappoint me, so I decided I'm going to change it up, but that remains to be seen. So yeah, I'm going to give it off to Alyce. Introduce herself.
Hey guys, I am Alyce. I play a priest, and I've been playing my priest since BC. I was holy for like 9 years, and then switched to shadow for HFC, and now not really sure which healing spec I'm going to in Legion. We're going to see how that works out. And last but not least, there's Sang.
What up, y'all? My name is Ben, aka Sang. I am the native Texan of the guild. I main a rogue named Nuckfubuck. I have been raiding in WoW since vanilla, and I've done at least a portion or completed every raid with the exception of Sunwell. So looking forward to Legion and talking about all the things I'm looking forward to. So Cody, back to you.
All right, guys, so you have a little taste of who we are and what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to kick it right off. The main change in Legion, I think the first thing that we all saw was the Demon Hunter. And who better to talk about the Demon Hunter than the man who's going to be forgetting everything he knows about Rogue and switching to Demon Hunter. So Sang, what are you hyped about? And is this going to bring people back to WoW? I mean, is the Demon Hunter, Blizzard's love child, and is this really going to re-energize the game?
Yeah, personally as a WoW player, I know as soon as I was introduced to the concept of a hero class, I've been waiting for the Demon Hunter pretty much the entire time. And I think they specifically saved this class for a time when they really wanted to boost their sub numbers back. It's a strong class with a lot of lore behind it. It's going to fit in well with the entire kind of Legion Demon Invasion atmosphere. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to double jump? So, I mean, they got all kinds of really, really cool things they can do. They got double jump. They stole metamorphosis from Warlocks. Warlocks, y'all can suck it. Screw you guys. But no, I think Demon Hunter is going to be a lot of fun. It's unique in that it only has 2 specs. You have DPS and you have tank. Right now, there's still a lot of number tuning and stuff going on, but I really do think that Demon Hunters are going to be one of the best classes that you can choose to play in Legion. DPS-wise, they have a lot of versatility. They have a lot of different play styles. They have several different builds you can go for how you want to play. Some are very movement-heavy. Some are very kind of based on metamorphosis and utilizing that kind of demon form gameplay. And then you have the Demon Hunter tank, the Vengeance spec, that can pretty much do everything. We've stolen every good ability from every other tank. We get Grip from Demon Hunters, we get Heroic Leap from Warriors, we get all kinds of stuns and crowd control, we get self-healing like DKs. I mean, if you want to do it as a tank, a Demon Hunter can do it. I'm not really worried about the balancing. I think they're going to make that work, and I think if you want to have some new excitement in the new expansion, I think Demon Hunter is the class to play. So that's why I'm swapping my main to Demon Hunter. It's going to be great.
Nice. Anybody else want to talk about Demon Hunter?
I'm not qualified if I talk about a demon hunter.
I can hate on the fact that all of our DPS want to switch to it, and that sucks a lot. So there's that. Too many people want to play it, so that's a problem. So
we've been crunching the numbers for a while now. The officers, there's 4 officers in our guild, and then a senior raiders group, and then our mythic raiders. And so we've been working down the line to figure out, how many melee we need, how many range we need. We put out a survey, and everybody, not everybody, but pretty damn close to everybody said, "Oh, I want to try Demon Hunter." And we
that's
all
either
know,
the second or third choice at least,
right? And we all know, you just can't have a raid filled with one class. There's balancing issues. There's, there's just encounter issues. So,
and the unfortunate thing is that, like, with let's just take HFC right now, for example. Like, right now, as in terms of leather agility DPS, which is what demon hunters are, we have rogues, and then we have feral druids. Not to mention the hunters and enhancement shamans that share trinkets and stuff with them. So, like, we're essentially adding another one on top of that. That's no doubt going to be better than all of them. So, like, kind of sucks that essentially demon hunters are going to be better than most of those, especially when it comes to like rogues and feral druids, because it's the exact same gear, minus the weapon, of course, but that's for everyone. So, yeah.
And speaking of weapons, let's talk about another big change in the game that we all know about. So, Kelso, this one's to you. So, artifact weapons. You said that you've waited 13 weeks, I think it was, for a weapon drop in Warlords of Draenor. But that's kind of the magic of it, right? The kind of, you're waiting for that weapon drop. I wanted my Cursed Demon Bone Longbow from Manaroth. You were waiting for your Fellblade or whatever the heck it was called. So does the artifact weapon system take a little bit away from the raiding experience by removing the weapon drops in raids? Or is that going to add a whole new layer that you think will energize people, mythic raiders, casual raiders? Do you think it's going to put something into the game or take something out?
So, I mean, from a personal standpoint, like, I waited, I think, 13 weeks before, like, a weapon dropped or was bonus rolled, and so from that perspective, like, there was always that bit of excitement every single time, we killed Fellord, and to see, is this the week that I finally get my offhand weapon?
Nope.
Sometimes excitement turns to rage, really.
Yeah, no, it never happened for 3 months. So from that perspective, like, obviously having your artifact weapon from the get-go and working towards where you want to be, upgrading it and everything, like, that'll be awesome. You don't have to worry about, like, that piece of loot. But on the flip side, it's like now everybody will be lusting over that other piece of gear. So, maybe it'll take away some of the desire for weapons, but now everybody will want that one trinket that drops off of that boss. That's going to be, the most overpowered trinket in the raid tier. So it kind of shifts, everybody's mindset away from, one slot to another, and I think that could sort of be detrimental just because, weapons and trinkets are the 2 most important slots as a raider. They generally have the highest impact on your gameplay, so to shift all of that that desire for one piece of gear to strictly one slot, I think that could potentially have some issues as far as gearing the raid and individuals. But then it's fun too because you get to see yourself progress. You get to see that one weapon enhanced, and then unlocking different artifact traits and different relic slots to really empower that weapon as much as possible to make it the best weapon that you can have. So it really is a double-edged sword, and I'm certainly looking forward to it just because I know that enhancements gameplay is affected heavily by our artifact weapons.
I think most classes are like that,
Yeah. So I think that'll be a really cool aspect as well, in addition to all the other caveats.
I actually have something to build upon what he just said. So as far as like the drops that you're talking about, the relic slots that are in the weapons are actually going to be drops from raids. So you're still going to have that item that you want to drop off of this boss. It's not going to be a weapon, but it's going to enhance your weapon, and they actually have different item levels on them.
There's a bunch. I mean, there's like what, almost like 200 maybe per artifact weapon. Like there's a bunch. Like, and they range between like green, blue, purple. Like just like a normal item would. So like, that's how you get your weapon item level up and stuff like that.
Can we talk about relics for a second? So I've been focused so much on getting us through the end of Warlords of Draenor, and I know a little bit about the artifact weapons. I haven't done my research as I should, but Alyce, you started talking about them. What are the relics? Why should people go back into the raids and get these relics?
So these relics they function like gems, where you put them in, take Holy, for example. You have a Holy slot, a life slot, and then your third artifact slot is Holy. So when you're questing, you actually get some to kind of teach you how it works. But these relics, they have an item level, they increase your weapons item level, and then they also have an artifact trait that they give
Empower.
Yeah, I think that's what they call it. They give one rank to that slot. So normally the traits have 3, and that increases it to 1 of 4 if you haven't put any points in it yet. And as you go on, like dungeons drop higher item level relics than the quests do, and then raids will drop higher than that as well.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then Mythic Plus dungeons go all the way up as well.
Right.
So, yep.
Cool. I mean, so there is still some element of weapon drops, if you will, through this relic system.
Yeah.
So being a mythic raider, and although you have the same weapon as, say, a casual raider, you're still going to differentiate yourself. You're still going to set yourself apart, with your relics and obviously with your other mythic gear and whatnot. Very cool. All right, so Alyce, we're actually going to come back to you for this question. So we talked, and I know you talked with Sean a lot about it. You played a Shadow Priest in Warlords of Draenor, arguably one of the most frustrating classes as a raid leader to deal with and to try and find the place to put you, and I assume to play. It was frustrating because you never felt like you were really capitalizing and really helping the guild in certain situations. Your numbers were lower.
You kind of have to be a scumbag to do well.
Right.
Yeah.
And we saw that with one of our last Shadow Priests. We just had no idea how he did so well, but when we look at the numbers, he really wasn't helping our team. He was just helping himself.
Right.
So Blizzard is seriously overhauling all the classes, right? For all of us, we've played a little bit in the PTR, and we know some of the class changes. So do you think this needed to happen, and will it make players excited to play their class or other classes in Legion?
It sure is making me excited to play it. I am having trouble picking a spec because I'm so excited about all of them. But some of the specs, I really do think that they really need an overhaul. Shadow, for example, had Shadow Orbs, which were the worst things ever, having to go outside and farm Shadow Orbs before every attempt, and I'm sure you guys agree with that, because you were ready checking before I was back in the instance. And then on the other side...
I was at like a minute-long opener, so we just kind of did our thing.
Yeah, But then, like Disc, to get rid of absorbs, which completely will change the way healing works in Legion.
It screwed over Holy Paladins immensely.
Yeah. Well, it
thanks
screwed
for
over
that.
Disc Priests too, but they just changed the entire class. So they made it from the easiest healer to play to the hardest. So we'll see how that works out too.
Nice. Anybody else want to talk about their classes or any class changes?
I hate all the class changes. They're terrible.
Yeah, I just have to make a personal note. Even though I'm swapping main, Subtlety Road might be the worst spec that's ever been placed in the game ever. It's actually horrible.
As someone that's pretty much been like the guild theory crafter and stuff like that for most of HFC and BRF, it's really sad when like a lot of specs are kind of getting destroyed. Like, I think all the preview videos that you guys have done so far have kind of touched on it, but like a lot of specs have like what, 4 or 5 main abilities now, and then 1 cooldown. And it's like cookie cutter for that for almost every single spec. It's like you have 2 things that help you spend a resource, you have 3 things that help you gain it, whatever, and it's like every class is becoming very homogenized. So like I think healers are the one, maybe tanks to a certain degree, but more so healers. Healers have kind of got the nice part of that because you can't really do that for a healer. They've always been very different, but DPS specs, I mean, essentially got hemorrhaged and almost homogenized in how they play. So I don't know. I mean, obviously we haven't really seen how everything works out yet, but it's not making me that excited for all these classes. And it's like, for someone who hasn't picked a main yet for Legion, it's making that decision easy and difficult at the same time, because it's like, doesn't matter what I pick, they're all going to do the same thing. They're all going to play the same for the most part. You know, it's like, whatever.
It's weird.
Yeah.
They try and do this thing. Obviously for me as a hunter, they took one of my specs and just said, "Oh, we're gonna make you melee now. That's fun, right? You've always wanted to be melee, and
it's actually doing
And
pretty
then
well
stand
too.
and everything.
right, of course, because that's what we want. We want a bunch of ranged players to all of a sudden try and be melee, because that doesn't screw up raid comps. That doesn't make your experience in dungeons miserable, as Alyce you've experienced.
Yeah, it's all melee. Because locks suck in dungeons right now.
Yep.
So you have shadow priests and mages, and then everybody else is melee.
And I want to add a caveat that, like, I kind of understand where Blizzard is going with this. Like, they've kind of publicly said that they want to make classes simpler so that raiders can, if you're in a raid or near a dungeon, they can make the encounters more difficult, so you can focus more on the encounter and less on doing this priority list for my spec or doing this set rotation. For instance, right now, I mean, this is very debatable, but like sub-rogues and HFC have like a 20-line opener. And if you don't follow that 20-line opener, then you've screwed it up, and your DPS totally reflects that by like a huge factor. Like mages have something very similar, demonology warlocks right now. So like some people find that really enjoying, like myself, like others and stuff like that, but that does make it a lot harder for, say, a new player to pick up subtly rogue in HFC is very difficult. Same thing with demonology warlocks. You could make the same argument for lots of classes. So I can see why they don't want to do that and why that's not appealing, but to high-end mythic raiders, a lot of us like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say just like very briefly that like originally, like a lot of the class changes I wasn't like a huge fan of. Like I didn't necessarily agree, like especially like subtlety and some other ones, but like the thing that keeps me playing WoW is like the fact that like classes are so diverse and they're so different to play. And the other thing that kind of keeps me hopeful is Blizzard really made it clear to me that they can completely change the way a spec plays just with tier bonuses and trinkets.
Yeah, you're right. Very right.
Soul cap and different tier like abilities. Like, okay, now you have to incorporate Vanish into your opener because you have a damage buff, and okay, now you really have to be intentional about pulling energy because you have soul cap that's going to proc. And they can change that. They can use that for retuning, and they can like reshape classes on the fly with tiers. So,
but like you gotta be careful with that too, though. You know, because like some set bonuses have like really made classes terrible to play. Like, what tier was it? Where Rogues had a tier set that was based off of Tricks of the Trade. Like, that was stupid. Why are they like? You got a damage buff for casting Tricks of the Trade. Like, who? Why? Why would you make that? Like, that's not engaging. Like, I don't know. So, and like they kind of like they've said in past expansions that like whenever they changed this new talent system model that they wanted it to be very much like you pick abilities and these abilities affect your gameplay kind of thing. And like I kind of see that, but like the artifact traits in your artifact weapon are essentially just stat sticks all over the place, and it's like that's not fun. I don't know, like 3% haste. Thanks. I don't know, like I don't know.
So, Sean, you talked a little bit about healing and how the DPS changes they're making a lot of changes to DPS. They're making them really cookie cutter, and I totally get it. I mean, somehow they managed to make Marksman Hunter even more basic. Like, I am officially the basic bitch of the WoW community, and it sucks.
You always have been.
Well, you know. But so Sean, you know, as the healing officer, that's what you did a lot. Yeah, most of Warlords of Draenor, you know, since Exiled Power really took off. You know, so you know the strengths, you know the weaknesses of every healing class in Warlords. So, in your opinion, what direction do you want to see the healing element take form in Legion? Like, which way should they go in Legion to make it really effective for a raiding environment?
Well, the problem is, like, so far from what I've seen, this expansion, it seems like they've kind of made healing like a side goal. Like, they haven't really said anything about changing their design philosophies around healing or designing raid encounters differently in terms of healing, because from what I'm seeing, they're still only bringing 3 to 4 healers to boss fights with, like, 5 players for each healer-ish kind of thing, and it's like that hasn't changed really. So I wish they would kind of change the model, because right now it kind of sucks for a healing comp where it's like, if we want to have a team of 20 for Mythic, of course, we need 4 healers, but then once you get farther in, you're only going to need 3. And I feel like they haven't really done anything to change that, and I feel like most healers, as it stands right now, with the one exception really being priests, haven't really changed at all. A lot of them have stayed the same with the core fundamentals kind of thing, especially like Resto Druid and Resto Shaman, still very, very similar. And then, Mistweaver Monks and Holy Paladins got some new abilities thrown in there, reworked a little bit, but mostly Mistweaver Monks and Holy Paladins kind of got a lot of their utility removed, which is never fun. I mean, no one ever likes that. I mean, arguably Holy Paladins lost a considerable amount, and then Mistweaver Monks can't DPS to heal anymore, and it's just, I don't know, like, I feel like...
as much DPS as a Disc Priest, though.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, it seems like this expansion, healing has kind of taken a back seat to the DPS changes, the new content they've added, which is either going to go one way or another, but, I mean, I think if you're a healer in WoD, it's going to be frighteningly similar in HF, or in Legion, especially in terms of healing comp and how many healers you need to bring. So we'll see, but that's kind of what me looking at logs on some of the raid tests, that's kind of what I've seen.
All right, cool. So let's change gears just a little bit here. One of the things that a lot of the community really hated about Warlords of Draenor, it started out cool, and then by the end of it, it kind of just ended up being that thing we log in every day to do, is Garrisons. We're putting raiding off to the side for a second. Let's talk about Garrisons. So now we have to deal with class order halls. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen in the class order halls. So we're going to do this kind of two-pronged here. So Kelso was the social butterfly of the guild and the guy that really interacts with as many people as he possibly can. Is class order halls going to bring back the MMO aspect of the game, or do you think it's another failed change? And the second part of that is Alyce, who's in the beta right now. I'm not sure if class order halls are in the beta. I assume they are.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, So talk to me about how that's looking, how things are shaping up. So we'll start with Kelso, then we'll move over to Alyce.
Okay, so let me have this disclaimer that I don't have beta access. So I have, other than videos and streams and things that I've seen, I don't have a hands-on first look.
Wait, real quick, I just want to talk to Blizzard real quick, because I know Blizzard is watching this video. We had like 3 of our Mythic Raiders get beta keys. Like, what is that? Like,
yeah, I mean they were out on the corner whoring themselves for being.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So I don't really have a good feel for how order rolls actually are, but from what I've seen is it's somewhat of an attempt to bring back the garrison in a more social aspect. From what I've read and seen, you get to be with other players that are the same class as you. You sort of get funneled into like one general area where you can sort of do your thing. To be frank, I don't think that anything will change. I mean, if you're going to be like sitting around in your order hall, doing your, order hall missions, this, that, whatever, like you'll probably be out in the world at this point, doing world quests, and I think that Blizzard has done a good job with providing things to do outside of the Garrison 2.0. Like I've been hearing it, the order hall being called. So world quests and keeping content relevant post level cap is something that wasn't really done well in Warlords of Draenor, which I now think is being implemented a lot better come Legion. So I don't think they're trying to keep you within the order hall. I think that, the social aspect that they involved or implemented within the order hall is just kind of like an added bonus to see players sort of running around and doing things. But for the most part, I don't think people will be sitting in their order hall like they are right now. At least, like every single one of my characters are, just chilling in the garrison making money.
I mean, you can make the argument that like druids right now and death knights already have an order hall, and like they never get used.
Sure.
Like no one's in Moonglade. Like maybe 5 people or whatever, and that's with the servers being combined. So like I personally I don't see that changing. But
there's
I mean,
nothing
obviously,
to do in them. There's nothing. If you go to the Death Knight place, which is whatever the hell its name is, Arcanist or whatever, you can change your rune. In the Moonglade, I don't even know what you do in Moonglade. There was that one quest to get a moose.
Yeah.
So Alyce, talk to us about the beta. What's it look like on the beta, and is it good stuff, bad stuff?
It is a garrison, but it's not. So I hit 110 yesterday, I think it was, and your main quest line is in your order hall, and whenever you want to start a new zone, like you finish the zone you're in, you get your 2 or 3 levels from that, you go back to your order hall to pick which zone you go to next. I've had a total of like 3 missions going at a time, and that was just to get artifact power, and to do the artifact quest line you have to do some missions.
Yep.
Other than that, I kind of log in and then I look and I'm like, oh, I don't have anything to do in here today, and I just go and quest. It's not something where you're going to be logging between all your alts for 2 hours because you have 10 alts and doing all this stuff before you can actually play. So I think they did a lot better job with it this time, because there's really not as much to do, and you're not forced to do it to make gold or anything like that.
You don't feel obligated,
right,
as a player that wants to maximize.
Yeah, there's the missions that you have to do for your artifact quest line, your main quest line for your class, but those missions take 2 days to complete. So if you can't log on every day, it's whatever.
Right. So I mean, it really felt like they were giving us a lot of busy work in Warlords of Draenor. Especially for for players like, I think most of us, with the exception of maybe Sang, and I feel like most of us have a ton of alts. I know Sean and I are alt capped. I don't know about the other 3 of you guys, but I know you all have a lot of alts. And if you want to log in every day and do garrison missions and get gold, you're going to be sitting there for an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, just trying to send everybody out, do your profession daily. It got so old. And there's no new aspect to it. You just log in, you do it, and then, hey, look, I made 6,000 gold today. Woohoo!
I think the shipyard also didn't help either. Like, they kind of added the shipyard on top of it, like, oh yeah, it's better now. And it's like, no, you just gave us more shit to do. Like, right. That's not better.
Another element of logging in every day just for nothing. All right, so we'll see how that all pans out. The Garrison 2.0, as Kelso said. But let's go back to something that we all know. We have spent. Let's see here. We spent. Is it almost a year now?
We started in BRF, so kind of like mid to late February is when the guild formed.
Okay, so we're definitely on our way up. We've built a great team, a great mythic team. We are 13 of 13, on a 2-day schedule, and that's awesome. So raiding is our thing, right? We pride ourselves in being the best 2-day raiding guild on the server. And throughout everything, everybody in our guild has given a lot of contributions to the raid team. But there's one person in here that knows the raids. Besides Sean, besides me, besides Dylan, besides Zerchi, I mean, Sang is constantly on my ass about people pulling their weight, mechanics that aren't being dealt with the right way, and he knows raids just as well as some of the best players in the game. So, Sang, talk to me about raids, what they need to change from Warlords of Draenor to Legion, what do you want to see, and how do they raise the bar for Mythic Raiders?
Well, yeah, I mean, raiding is what keeps me playing the game. That's why, like, every expansion, like, I play, like, since vanilla, I want to do the raids, I want to see the content, I want to see what's new. And then I'll play, and by the end, I kind of get burned out, and I'll see the new content and the new raids, and I'm like, I'm not going back. But then it comes out, and, like, sure enough, I go back. And so, like, raiding is what, like, makes me want to play WoW. One of the biggest things I think they can do is make sure they're releasing content at a point where you're not in the same raid for like a year, doing the same bosses over and over and over again. Like every time we go into HFC now, like I feel like a piece of my soul is dying.
Like the soul cap, because you put your soul in the soul cap, and every time it explodes, that's a piece.
Yeah, it takes a little
That was
piece
a terrible
of
dad
sting
joke.
into it. Sorry, it's feel bad, so it happens. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's hard to make the same content feel fresh. Even Mythic, right? Even introducing new mechanics, things that you changed, things that make it harder. Like it feels like a joke now, and it feels old, and like I'm not like really mentally engaged in what I'm doing. Even now, as a Mythic Raider, doing what's supposed to be the hardest bosses in the game. But I think they're creating an atmosphere where they can make raids that are meaningful. Unfortunately, a lot of the classes are, to some degree, being simplified. Specs are being simplified a little bit. They're limiting the number of abilities, and so there's a lot less, okay, what button do I press? What do I need to do? Some are still going to be complicated. That's still there, but the more you have to worry about what you're doing with your rotation, the less you can really pay attention to mechanics.
So
and
what
having
you're saying is, as a raid leader, every class is being sussed out, which means everybody should do mechanics perfectly, right?
Yeah. I mean, like you say all the time, mechanics are what kill bosses. But like the thing that I find interesting about raids is interesting mechanics. Whenever you go and it's like, okay, for a boss you have to stand here, but then at one point you have to move here, and then you have to move here, and that's it. That's not very like exciting, dynamic gameplay for me. The more I can have like an active role in a fight, the more the boss feels rewarding, and the more I feel like I'm achieving something when I complete the raid. And so, I think you have to make boss fights meaningful. You have to make raids challenging, and I think they're making that. I think they're in the process of doing that, and that's going to be huge. I mean, like having dabbled with other MMOs, like WildStar, like they kind of get like overkill on the amount of like reticles that are on your screen, but even just doing dungeon bosses in WildStar feels more meaningful than some raid bosses were in Warlords of Draenor, because holy smokes, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of things for me to worry about and a lot of things to do. Even as a healer, I knew I had to watch for interrupts. I had to try and pump out some damage when I could. And I think they're doing that to some degree. Like, from watching basically every boss video that's been released and watching people test bosses, they're making them more interesting, more movement-heavy, more mechanic-heavy fights, which, like, in turn means every raider is going to be more responsible. And I think that's huge. Like, personal responsibility is what makes raiding fun. It's what generates teamwork, and honestly, I think it allows us to have like the kind of connections that we have. So, healers, for example, have to be way more intentional about healing tanks and managing their mana in Legion. Well, that means I, as a DPS, like I have to nail mechanics. Like I can't take useless, pointless damage, because if I do, we're gonna die. Tanks, that means you absolutely have to understand every aspect of the fight, and you have to nail it. You have to be right there. Healers, that means you're not looking to snipe heal and just manage to top somebody off before everybody else. Like, you have to know and do your role, and you have to do it perfectly. So in all honesty, like, I think we are going to be looking at harder raids. And I think that's going to be, in my opinion, something that's going to make the expansion have more meaning and be more enjoyable, at least more than Warlords was.
Yeah. All right, so let's go down the line really quick. Sorry, Steve. Give me 1 sec. I'm getting to you right here. So right down the line really quick. Favorite boss in less than 30 seconds. Let's say favorite boss, least favorite boss in Warlords, and why for each of them. So Steve, you start since you're on the screen.
So my favorite boss probably would have to be Manaroth, just because, like Sang was talking about, there's so much that's going on. Every part of your team, whether it be your melee DPS, your ranged DPS, your healers, your tanks, like everybody has to be on point. They all have to know their shit. If you're out of position, as a ranged DPS. If you're standing in melee and you drop a Fell Seeker on the raid, like, you might as well just wipe it and start over, because like one failed mechanic is actually going to screw your entire raid group. So that would be my favorite. My least favorite probably Foul Lord, because of the weapon issue, but also because it's just a really boring fight. And it's a fight that you could go 95% kill, and then that last 5% you could wipe countlessly, just from seeds blowing up on people. So, Manaroth and Foul Lord.
Okay, Sean, how about you?
I think in general, in HFC, my favorite boss was any boss I didn't have to heal with the Disc Priest.
We didn't have a Disc Priest.
So that started in Tyrant. So after Mythic Tyrant, I was loving life, because I did top the meters almost every single fight, unless our Resto Shaman pulled some miracle work. So that was awesome. I think specifically, aside from that, I think I would say probably Tyrant. I like what they did with healing on that fight. Least favorite fight's a tie between either Mythic Manaroth or Mythic Hellfire Assault. Assault is the boringest fight on the face of the planet.
I loved it so much.
Not a boss.
And then Manaroth is terrible simply because we had to cheese so many mechanics, and if one of the cheeses didn't work right, the whole raid wiped, and that was terrible. Or what we've noticed recently on a guild on farm is we threw more DPS at it because we kept getting better, and then the fight got harder, which is that's stupid. That shouldn't happen.
Which we finally offset by adding a 4th healer, which we'd never. Yeah. When we progressed, we did Mythic Manaroth with 3 healers. We threw a 4th healer in there, and boom, we're back to our original timing. I think we killed it in 2. It's just dumb, and that goes to show that Blizzard did not pay attention when it was doing its eye level upgrade. It wasn't thinking about the Mythic raiding community. It was thinking about the larger chunk of the population that's raiding on a normal or heroic content. Yeah. And look, that's part of their game, right? They're looking at the big picture, and they're looking at who's going to benefit the most from it. They're going to hear it from the Mythic
They
raiders.
want more people to see the content.
Right.
Yeah, which is kind of scary, though, because it's we just kind of talked about how classes are being simplified so that way they can make raid encounters more difficult. Okay, that sounds all well and good and everything for us, but Warlords of Draenor has been known as the guild killer. More guilds than ever have disbanded Warlords of Draenor, whether it's because of the content drought or the rating being too hard. You can argue it both ways, but to a certain degree, guilds and BRF were breaking apart because they couldn't do mythic content. More so in BRF than I think any of the 3, but that was a real problem. So they're gonna have to be careful how hard they step on the pedal, because we have to understand, as Mythic Raiders, we're top 1-2%. So it's do they care about us? I mean, I don't know if I would if I was them.
All right, Alyce, let's continue our least favorite, most favorite bosses. What about you?
I was going to say Manaroth for the same reasons, because there's so much going on, but I didn't get to progress on that because I'm a Shadow Priest. So I will actually say Archimond once you're inside. I hate the first phase. It sucks.
Yeah. So Archimond once Shadow Priests were relevant?
No, once there was actually mechanics. There's actually stuff to do. Least favorite, besides Assault, which I'm still saying is not a boss, it's trash, I would have to say Fell Lord as well.
Wow. Really? That's so strange. 2 Manaroth pros and 2 felt obviously we all know that I'm saving my least favorite and most favorite as the same most awful boss in the entire game ever established. But we'll get there. Sang, how about you?
A great boss. My favorite is Iskar, just because you hated it so much. Least favorite. Yeah, obviously Hellfire Assault was really, really bad. Basically, any fight where the fight didn't really start until 5 minutes in. Just because I think that's a really poor design, where you're just kind of sitting around, not really having to engage that much, not really having to worry that much. So there's unfortunately a lot of fights that kind of fit that style. As far as
Gorefiend? No one mentioned Gorefiend.
Yeah, I was
That
just about to say
hilarious.
nobody's mentioned Gorfine yet.
I think that's the funny thing as a guild. I think we've killed Gorefiend like 6 or 7 times, and then we decided to never go back.
You know, it's funny though because you mentioned Wildstar before, saying, and Wildstar is all about the abilities kind of ramping up and overlapping, and that's how I felt Gorefiend was. Like I think we've all just burned it out of our mind for whatever reason. I didn't hate Gorefiend. I didn't love Gorefiend, but I didn't hate it because, you know, if we lost control, you know, it was a mechanics fight. If you lost control of the mechanics, you suffered the consequence, and it was a wipe. You know.
And
Yeah.
the whole thing was either focus on mechanics or focus on DPS. You didn't have to do all of it at the same time, which was kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Gorefiend probably was one of my favorite fights in the game. It's at Gorefiend. The other one that might come out of left field, just because we really didn't get to do it a whole lot, would have been Mythic Thogar. Just because I think there's so many different things going on in that fight. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of mechanics, there's ad phases, there's DPS phases, and like every raider has to be fully aware of everything. Because if you get hit by a train or you take too much of a debuff, you're dead. So yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't say Cormorant. Wasn't Cormorant when you had to switch mains, or was that Kilrock?
That was on Kilrock when I made that change. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Rip Windwalker monks.
Yeah. When the destiny was fully realized.
yeah. The Nugget Feedback was born.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, obviously, you guys know from me that my absolute least favorite boss ever established, ever created, ever designed was Iskar. What a god-awful, terrible design for anybody that's like OCD needs to have control. And you guys know that's me to a fault. You know, you're sitting there and you're watching this little add-on, and you're seeing
You literally
all these people-
pass control.
You're passing control. And it was literally heartbreaking when I hear, oh, 3 people are going off the edge. Oh, there they go. Who's got the eye? Oh, he's got the eye. Oh, wait, my button's broken. I can't pass the eye.
And then I start screaming over the microphone.
Yeah, exactly. It was a terrible design. It was a terrible design. And then when you get to Mythic, the Mythic mechanic we didn't even do because the ring totally negated it. So it's just like, Blizzard, pay attention to your goddamn designs. Pay attention to your designs. If you're going to design a boss that's different, you know, first of all, make sure that everything works with that boss. You know you put the ring in there, which is a dangerous move, especially with the item level upgrade. And then in concept, yeah, it's cool. Okay, you have all these things and you have to pass this magical eye that's going to reveal the things. Okay, sure, that may sound really cool on paper, but so does communism. So you get the eye, or you don't get the eye and you die and you pay the consequence, but it wasn't in a fun way. It wasn't in a ramp up kind of way. It's in a way, it's like, it's literally you're watching as your feet are getting, you know, pushed towards the fire. Or in this case, you're watching yourself get pushed off the edge. So that was just terrible. Just terrible. But I will say, as a whole, I did enjoy a lot of the bosses in HFC and BRF. We didn't get all the way through BRF Mythic because we were still forming the guild and all that stuff. But HFC was fun. I mean, for the most part, 90% of the time it was fun. We never had, you know, people other than like a few times on Manaroth on progression, 200 pulls in, we're like, this is miserable. It was miserable because we weren't doing it right? It was mostly our fault.
Yeah.
But then you have a boss like Iskar. You have a boss where something just goes wrong because of an add-on, or because, you know, the interface doesn't work well with it, or because the ring screwed it up. You know, so I just really, you know, I think we all want them to push their design in that unique way, but just make sure it works.
Or it's consistent. You know, it's like, it's kind of weird where it's like, you know, you can either transition from heroic to mythic and the encounters don't change at all, or they change so completely that it's like, where do you go to figure out how to do these mechanics? It's like, there's no good resources. It's like, because with your eye level of the guild, the boss changes completely. Like we were talking about, like Manaroth, like we threw more item level at it and the boss changed completely. Like that's like, I don't know if that's good design in my opinion, because it's like theoretically, you know, it should either ramp like a straight diagonal line, or it should be like consistent all throughout. So
I think at that point, you know, Blizzard was just banking on comps being like 16 arcane mages and just negating like 3/4 of the fight. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, class stacking is a whole nother issue we can get into in another video, because you know, I love diversity in a raid, but when all signs point to, hey, you should stack arcane mages, you should stack, you know, rogues, it sucks. It sucks, because then you have people that are playing shadow priests, people that are playing, you know, feral druids or whatever, windwalker monks, and you
what's a feral druid?
Exactly. It's like you put them off to the side and you say, sorry, you're not playing the right class. you're not playing the right class. How am I supposed to put you in the
Play a
raid?
better class.
And like healers is like the best example of that. It's like, to progress in Mythic with our gear, we had to compromise on healing. And it's like we could only bring 3 healers, and it's like we couldn't afford to bring 4. And it's not because our DPS was bad, it's just because that's where our item level was at the time, and it's just like that's how we progressed. And it's like, I don't know, kind of like secluding that person, because you'll need 4 healers for some fights, or like Council, we needed 5 to progress, and it's like, okay, well then you just bench 2 people for the rest of the expansion.
Have you ever tried to sit a healer? They're fickle. They're fickle and they suck. I could sit 10 DPS and everybody'd be fine. And I sit 1 healer and I get whispers the rest of the day saying, dude, why am I sitting? Do I suck? Yes, you do suck.
Feeling of entitlement.
Yeah.
Playing the wrong class.
Yep.
Right. That's the name of the game, and that's something that I hope they change. I don't want to ever have to say, hey, I'm sorry, X-Raider, you're playing the wrong class. Balance
Yeah,
your
that's a
classes.
terrible place to be.
And I don't want to look in Legion and say, oh, okay, well, Demon Hunters, they're the love child. They're doing great. I guess everybody needs to play a Demon Hunter now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do
That's
that, and
fun.
nobody should want to do that, except for Shang, who wants the whole world to be Demon Hunters.
I mean, hopefully with the artifact traits being kind of like just like I said before, just number sticks basically, because a lot of them are like you'll get 4 abilities out of the artifact weapon, maybe 3, maybe 5, and then the rest of the tiers leading connecting the dots kind of thing. It's just like 3% haste, 3% crit, like very small numbers. So hopefully they can kind of use that to tune better. But in all honesty, I think it's just going to make it a lot harder to tune, and we're going to see probably an even worse problem than we have right now. But again, that's just me being, I don't know, not
Pessimist?
Yeah, pessimist. Thank you.
All right, so let's change gears. I've got 2 more questions for you guys. The first one's a little light. A big change coming in Legion is the Transmog system. Everybody is super jazzed about Transmog. It's something to do, right? It's another thing that we can do outside of a raid. Go crawl through the old dungeons, crawl through the old raids, find the
It's
gear.
more bag space.
It's more bag space, and that's the key.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And so, Alyce, as somebody who's sitting in the beta, who's played with the Transmog system, I think everybody's excited for this one. So, what are you looking forward to? And, will this whole thing play out?
So on live, I have 5 empty bag spaces. I have all Hexwave bags, and I have 5 empty bag spaces, and I
And your
still
bank
want
full, right?
my bank's full, my void storage is full, and I still want to go get more transmog, but I don't have the room
Can't
for it.
fit.
So I am loving the new system. I think there are some upgrades that they could make to it, because sometimes it's a little laggy. It's beta, but and some of the things, like you scroll through a page that has 10 of the same exact skin but different colors, just because they made so many for whatever, like Cataclysms, I think, and Wraths were terrible. However, one of the big changes that I don't think gets talked a lot about with it is you can actually save your outfits per spec, which is awesome.
And hide shoulders.
And you can hide shoulders, which is great.
Is that big? Is that a big deal? Do people care about that?
Yes.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right. I just wanted to make sure. As somebody who clearly has the best transmog in the guild.
Are you kidding me, dude? I'm playing a demon hunter. I'm gonna hide the shoulders and just be a shirtless dude running around the entire
With
raid.
green tattoos.
Just like
I remember back in vanilla.
Shirtless in game. It's gonna be great.
Back in vanilla, the one thing that I was most excited for whenever I played a new character was getting to level 12 or 14, whatever it was, where you could buy white shoulders from the auction house, because it just made your character so much more robust. It was
Shoulders are this big.
you get these shoulder things, and you didn't look like such a dweeb anymore. You were a level 13.
Says the enhancement shaman.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I don't know why.
I'm looking forward to it.
Transmogs are always bad, so.
Yeah.
Beauty is in the eye of the
But-
beholder.
I will say, as a completionist, it's going to suck.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
says the zookeeper, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think, honest to God, a system like Diablo, right, which is very much you unlock the skin and then you have the ability to dye your armor certain colors. I think that could potentially take away all of like the issues that a lot of like completionist people are having. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, you go unlock that skin, but you don't need to unlock the 3 different color sets, and the 3 different, looking for group, normal, heroic, and mythic modes.
And
Because they all have, like it's like that to me. I think is a bit redundant, and I think they could rework that maybe. I don't see it ever changing, but
it's just going to be hard because there's just so much, right? Like,
there's a lot.
I think that's why they kind of pushed it back because it's like you're like if you just click on the helms and you see all of the helms in the game, like that's like probably like what, hundreds of pages? I don't even know. Like,
yeah, so
unless you have some kind of sort by model and you can then do color variations off of that or something. But
I think they should add something like that because I'll tell you, when I logged into beta, I got spammed with achievements for they have the fashionista achievements for however many appearances you have for each slot, and to get the achievement you have to have 100 for each slot, and I got all of them as soon as I logged in.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, it takes all the quests that you've ever done as well, so it's not everything that was in my bags, but I mean, just to put that in perspective, that's a lot to go through when you're just going in and looking for the first time. And I mean, you can't hide them. I think you can favorite some, so if they show up at the top, like your toys and stuff. Yeah.
So this was a really needed change, though, right? This was something that a lot of other games have been doing. Diablo does it. I forget if WildStar does it, but we all know the games that do it. And this really ties into my last question, which I'll start with Sean, but I think everybody needs to comment on this. We've seen in the teasers and the leaks that they're making a lot of changes. They're making a lot of changes with combat animations, with interface functionality, etc. And for the people that have been playing this game for a long time, we look at things like combat animations like, wow, you guys are going back and adjusting combat animations. Wow, you're really you're taking a look at the game again. You're taking a look at the game again in every little aspect of the game. So do you think Blizzard is really buckling down and making changes that are going to keep players in the game? Or are they are players just going to come back for the hype, and are they going to leave in a month?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see that again, 100%, no doubt. Like, we're going to get a huge resurgence again. That's going to happen. I think the question is whether or not they're going to stay. But I think for the most part, a lot of these changes are trying to bring WoW up to speed with newer games without actually redoing the whole game from scratch. But, I mean, my look on it is I don't think they've attracted any new players to the game. If so, very, very little. So I think they've kind of reached a ceiling, like, let's call it 10 million players. And for the most part, for the rest of WoW's life, I think they're just going to fluctuate with those 10 million players, especially because, like, the rest of the Blizzard universe and their games are extremely good. And I think for the most part, they kind of hemorrhage their own population to a certain extent, where it's like, okay, WoW expansion just launched. I'll play WoW for 4 months until I get tired of it, switching to Diablo because a new season started. I think Blizzard's totally cool with that, so I think we're just going to keep seeing that because, honestly, I don't think World of Warcraft will ever hit, huge new game again because of all, like, there's new games coming out all the time, so it's like, and if you want to play an MMO, like, it's always going to be an MMO. Like, they can't change anything about, like, you're playing these kinds of games because you want the interactions with other people, and, like, adding new features doesn't really change that, right? Like, at the end of the day, you're still playing with a bunch of people at the same time. So I think the new features are more like quality of life enhancements for the people that are still playing, kind of thing. So we'll probably just see the same thing we saw in Warlords, with the one exception being if they can keep us in the game longer. So,
all right, Alyce, how about you? You've been playing this game a long time. I mean, do you think they're going to get back to? And I am too. Sorry, that was not a dig at you saying you play this game a really long time. I played this game since vanilla. I was part of a 40-man Nax team. I agree with Sean.
Longer than I have.
Well, there we go. I'm the old one in the group, I guess. But I mean, do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him?
I think with every new expansion, there is a huge influx of people. Because that's when they're advertising. That's when all the hype is there, and you're gonna get that huge influx. Now, my worry is that it's going to be like Cataclysm again, where that first tier of raids in Cataclysm was hard. I loved it.
Yep.
But I love hard raids.
Yep.
So there were so many people that were complaining about those raids, and I mean, I'm like, how can you hate those? They were amazing, but they were just too hard. And they lost a lot of players because of that. So I'm afraid that if they're making these raids hard again, that they're going to lose that same, maybe not amount, but that same type of player that wants it a little easier.
Which is their larger population, as we've talked about, right?
Right.
But I think you also, I was talking to someone who's I kind of said the same thing, and he was like, he really liked that they were difficult, and I was like, well, what about those people that can't do them? Because back in BC and Wrath, the percentage of people that saw raids was super, super low. And he was like, yeah, but like as a player, like let's say you're not on a guild, right? Or you're not in a guild, you're not raiding. Kind of a desire to play the game kind of comes from, oh, but I could. Like, I kind of want to get that good, and like that kind of drives you to play. But since they've added like LFR and stuff like that, it's like, oh yeah, I've killed Archimonde. Why do I need to kill him on a harder difficulty?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm done with the game, right? I beat the game. I killed the last boss. And that was his argument. It's like LFR kind of killed that with Cataclysm kind of thing. It's like
It kills the excitement too, to be honest. I raided in Sunwell, and we killed Muru, which was the second to last boss, right? Before 3.0. The nerd screams were amazing because nobody on our server had killed it before. I don't know what place we were in the US or whatever, but it was a big achievement, and that feeling that you got, that sense of accomplishment, since they added the different difficulties, since they added the LFR, you don't get that anymore, because it's like, oh, I've already killed this boss, it's just a little bit harder this time.
I don't 100% agree with that, because we had some pretty good moments in the Mythic.
Dude, nerdgasms.
Yeah.
All over the place.
It was, and that's says something about the way that the guild operates, and the way that our guild operates and other guilds operates, that we still find those moments as an MMO community, maybe not with, the top guilds on the server. We had some run-ins with some top guilds, and it wasn't so positive, but within our family, within our clique, we were pumped that we killed Gorfine. We were pumped that we, killed Manaroth, and after 200 pulls, something like that, it's just still an excitement. So yeah, I agree. LFR has definitely killed it, and a lot of the changes, need to happen, and some things could just fall by the wayside, and I wouldn't care. But yeah, I'm with you guys, both of you guys. Kelso, Sang, what do you guys think?
Personally, I think that this expansion will be similar to like Wrath, just because you get a new hero class, and that's definitely going to drive a lot more people to play initially. Whether or not they stay, nobody really knows. But I kind of touched on this earlier. Blizzard's doing a lot to sort of keep people engaged throughout the expansion with world quests, with Titan forged equipment now. Like you can go into a looking for raid group and get a Titan forged piece of gear that's better than 90% of the heroic gear that's out there. It's like you'll still be able to progress even if it's not quote unquote progressing. Yes, it's RNG at that point, but it's not going to stop people from running heroic raids and then going into LFR and then trying to get that lucky Titan Forge piece of gear that just happens to be better in that slot than the piece of gear they already have. So, again, I think there will be an influx of people, but I think that it will be unlike any other expansion in that more people will stay, just because of the different games, if you will, that Blizzard's sort of implementing now to keep you engaged. Yeah, hopefully. That's my hope, is that they keep people engaged and, it doesn't become a chore. Like, I know that's sort of, the big deal nowadays is you sort of feel like you're required to log in and do your garrisons, and you're required to log in and, do X, Y, and Z, whatever, for your artifact power. That's the big one that I'm concerned about. Is like, every day that I don't log in. If I go away for a weekend, it's like I'm missing out on 2.5 days worth of artifact power that I could be using to upgrade my my skills and my artifact weapons. So that's my only dilemma, and something that I have a problem with. But outside of that, people that play the game for fun and enjoy sort of the more casual atmosphere and are less competitive, I think it'll be great. There's going to be hopefully a lot of stuff to keep them engaged. It's just for people that sort of yearn for more and that want a different experience. Like, I would like to think all of us, being raiders and things like that, we sort of want more from our experience, and so we sort of stretch like everything that we do to the fullest. And like right now we're still raiding and we don't need to, but we do it anyway. And it's just like, patience is wearing thin and everything, and I hope that doesn't happen throughout the expansion of Legion.
All right, Sang, hit us with some wise words. There we go.
All right, here comes some wisdom from the Sang.
Folksy wisdom.
Yeah, Texas wisdom. No, honestly, I think Legion is at least a step in the right direction. I mean, obviously one of the biggest critiques against Blizzard is like people want faster content. Like they want more expansions, they want more raids quicker. But I mean, so hopefully this is a step in the right direction as far as them. Okay, we need to do things bigger, we need to do things better, we need more meaningful content released. But I mean, honestly, like, WoW is the MMO of all MMOs. Like, if I really wanted competitive rating only, I could probably go to WildStar and have a great time. Okay, but I'm going to lose competitive PvP. I'm going to lose, like, a really well-integrated transmog system. I'm going to lose, like, a really well-established world. Like, I'm going to lose, like, a rich, like, amount of lore, because that matters to a lot of people. Like, if you're super into pets, you're not going to find that in another MMO. WoW has all those things. And I think in Legion, they're making all those things better, but not just better. I think they're making them two-tier, right? So, like, there's been a lot of critique against LFR, and obviously as a hardcore raider, it's kind of the bane of our existence. But like, if you want just enough raiding experience to be satisfied, and you find a lot of enjoyment from other things, like LFR is perfect for you. But I also think the raids in Legion are going to be harder than what we've seen in a long time. So I think, like, as a raider, I'm going to be really satisfied there. I think with the PvP system, they've made some major changes, like that as a PvPer, like, you're going to love and you're going to enjoy. Okay, but also, like, I can do a base amount of PvP as a raider and still find meaning in it, and still be somewhat competitive with the changes that they've made. Obviously, you get better if you level up your PvP stuff more, but you can participate on a base level and enjoy it. If you really flip and love pets, like Alyce, you can get every pet in the game, and you can do pet battles, and it's like Pokemon, but WoW-based, right?
It still embarrasses me. It really does.
Yeah. I hate it. I've never done a pet
I don't like pet battles.
Well, so if you're just a collector, you can collect, but, like, whatever. If you really flip and love lore, like, they're bringing back some major characters that a lot of, like, lore-interested people have been waiting on for a long time in Legion. Like, it's not these obscure people, like, okay, I've never really heard of them before. So they're really refining a lot of things. They're making, like, every aspect of it, I think, better for the people that enjoy that part of the game, whether that be PvP or raids. And honestly, I think, hopefully, this is going to be a pattern that repeats and gets cleaned up even more in future expansions, kind of restoring some life to the game. So that's kind of how I feel.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for checking out the video. We just hit the 1 hour mark. So this is our Legion hype video. This is the first of our Exiled Power roundtable discussions, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be diving into some more Legion stuff soon. So thanks for sticking with us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Check out our website, exiledpower.com. And yeah, we'll see you next time.